The auditorium lights dimmed, and a restless hush spread across the crowd. Hundreds of eyes turned toward the stage, not with anticipation, but with doubt. A tall boy, thin and awkward in his stance, walked out with his head slightly lowered. His shirt was simple, his jeans faded, and his shoes looked like they had seen too many rainy days. He didn't look like the kind of person who belonged under the spotlight. From the back rows, whispers rose. "Why is he even here?" Someone muttered. "This will be embarrassing," another laughed quietly. Even the judges exchanged skeptical glances. They had seen countless contestants before, some polished, some passionate, but this boy looked like neither. His name was Ethan, 17 years old, quiet, shy, the kind of student people forgot existed until they needed someone to blame for something small. For years, he had been invisible, sitting at the edge of classrooms, eating lunch alone, walking home by himself. If he ever spoke, his voice was soft, too soft for anyone to take seriously. But what no one knew, what no one could have guessed, was that Ethan carried a secret inside him, a gift so powerful that it had the ability to move hearts, to silence doubts, and to remind people of what it means to be human. The only problem was, no one believed in him. Not his classmates, not his teachers, not even himself. Yet, tonight, everything was about to change. Ethan stepped toward the microphone, his hands trembling slightly. The stage felt enormous, like a mountain he had no chance of climbing. The spotlight was hot on his face, and for a moment, he thought about walking away, saving himself from the humiliation that everyone was waiting for. He could hear them already, the laughter, the ridicule, the cruel words that had followed him since childhood. "You're not good enough, you'll never make it, don't even try." Those voices filled his mind, pressing down on him like chains. But then, he thought of her. His mother, the woman who had worked 2 jobs, who had sacrificed everything just to keep a roof over their heads. The woman who now lay in a hospital bed, fighting for her life after years of illness. She was the only person who had ever truly seen him, who had ever believed there was something special hidden in the quiet boy no one noticed. Her words echoed in his memory. "Ethan, your voice is more than sound. It's your soul. When the world doesn't believe in you, sing. Let them hear the truth they've been blind to." He swallowed hard, gripped the microphone, and closed his eyes. The audience shifted impatiently. Someone coughed. A girl in the front row rolled her eyes. The judges scribbled something on their papers, already convinced this performance was over before it began. And then, he sang. The first note was fragile, trembling, like a candle flickering in the dark. For a heartbeat, it seemed it might vanish completely. But then it grew stronger, warmer, fuller, until the sound filled every corner of the auditorium. It wasn't just singing, it was raw, unfiltered emotion. His voice carried the weight of loneliness, the sting of rejection, the silent prayers whispered in hospital rooms. It carried love, pain, hope, and something beyond words. The audience froze. The whispers stopped. The laughter died. Even the judges lifted their eyes, stunned by what they were hearing. Because in that moment, it wasn't just Ethan's story, it was everyone's story. Every broken dream, every hidden pain, every unspoken hope found a voice in his song. No one had believed, but now, no one could deny. The note lingered in the air, wrapping the room in a silence so profound that even the sound of breathing felt too loud. But before Ethan ever stepped onto that stage, before this moment of truth, his life had been a story of quiet battles and unseen kindnesses. Ethan grew up in a neighborhood where dreams rarely survived. His father had left when he was only 6, leaving behind a small apartment and a mother who worked herself to exhaustion just to keep food on the table. Money was always tight. There were nights when dinner was nothing more than toast and a glass of water, mornings when he went to school with an empty stomach, pretending he wasn't hungry. Yet, through it all, his mother never stopped smiling. She'd hum little melodies while folding laundry, whisper prayers over him before bed, and tell him stories about strength and courage. "You don't need to be the loudest voice in the room," she'd say, brushing his hair from his forehead. "You just need to let the world hear your true one." But the world didn't want to listen. At school, Ethan was the quiet kid, the one always picked last in gym, the one teachers overlooked. He wasn't athletic, he wasn't the top student, and he didn't have the flashy clothes that made others popular. When he tried to speak up, people talked over him. When he tried to join groups, they turned away. And when they discovered he liked to sing, the laughter was merciless. "Ethan, sing. You've got to be kidding. Come on, "Man, you can barely talk loud enough to order lunch. Don't embarrass yourself." Every word was a stone, piling on his shoulders. Slowly, he stopped trying. He'd hum only when he was alone, singing softly in his tiny bedroom or while washing dishes. His voice was his secret sanctuary, a place where pain turned into beauty, where his loneliness could breathe. Yet, even in his silence, Ethan's heart carried kindness. When a classmate dropped their books, he was the first to help pick them up, even if they barely thanked him. When a stray dog wandered near the bus stop, Ethan shared his sandwich, ignoring the stares from others. When the old man down the street struggled with groceries, Ethan carried them up 3 flights of stairs without expecting anything in return. But kindness rarely brought him recognition. It only made him more invisible, as if people assumed it was just natural for him to serve quietly in the background. Still, he didn't stop. Because his mother had taught him something important. Real goodness doesn't need to be seen, it just needs to be given. But then, life dealt its cruelest blow. His mother fell ill. What began as fatigue and headaches turned into endless hospital visits, tests, and long nights filled with fear. The doctors spoke in terms Ethan struggled to understand, but he could see the truth in his mother's weakening smile. He spent afternoons by her bedside, holding her hand, humming the same melodies she once sang to him. And every time she opened her tired eyes, she whispered the same words, "Promise me, Ethan, promise me you'll let them hear your voice." He promised. That promise was why he stood trembling under the stage lights now, facing a crowd that never believed in him. That promise was why, even as doubt gnawed at him, he opened his mouth and let his soul pour out in song. And with each note, something remarkable began to happen. The same classmates who had mocked him leaned forward, their smirks fading. Teachers who once overlooked him felt tears prick their eyes. Strangers who had never seen him before felt an ache in their chests, as if this boy's song had found its way into the places they kept hidden. It wasn't perfection that silenced them, it was truth. His voice cracked at times, raw with emotion, but every imperfection made it more real. He wasn't just performing, he was bleeding his heart into the room, stitching together every soul with the thread of his song. And for the first time in his life, Ethan wasn't invisible. The song soared higher, carrying Ethan's soul on every note. He was no longer just a boy on a stage, he was a mirror, reflecting the hidden wounds of everyone listening. His voice trembled with the ache of loss, swelled with the hope of love, and cut through the thick wall of doubt that had always surrounded him. In the front row, a judge known for her cold, unshakable demeanor found tears streaming down her cheeks. She wasn't thinking about the boy anymore, she was thinking about her brother she had lost years ago, and how this song made her feel like she was hearing his laughter again. In the middle rows, a teenage girl who had been battling depression gripped her best friend's hand tighter, whispering, "Do you hear that? It feels like he's singing what I couldn't say." And in the very back, a father who had stopped speaking to his son months ago quietly reached for his phone, typing out the words, "I'm sorry. Come home." Ethan didn't know any of this. All he knew was that his heart was finally free. Every lyric was a prayer for his mother, every note a promise that he would never let her believe her sacrifices were in vain. He sang until his lungs burned, until his throat ached, until there was nothing left inside him but truth. Then, silence. The final note hung in the air, quivering like a fragile glass about to shatter. For one heartbeat, the room remained frozen. No clapping, no whispers, just stunned silence, thick and unbroken. And then, it erupted. Applause thundered through the hall, wave after wave of people rising to their feet. The very classmates who once laughed at him now shouted his name. The teachers who had dismissed him clapped until their palms stung. Strangers wiped tears from their eyes, cheering louder than they ever had before. Ethan stood there, trembling, overwhelmed. He wasn't smiling for the crowd, though. His gaze lifted above them, past the blinding stage lights, as if he could send his song straight to the hospital room where his mother lay. In his heart, he knew she had heard him. Somehow, somewhere, she had felt every note. Backstage, when the curtains closed behind him, Ethan broke down. But this time, they weren't tears of shame or loneliness. They were tears of release, of finally being seen, of finally keeping the promise he had made. The next day, news spread quickly. Clips of his performance were shared online, viewed by millions around the world. Headlines read, "The boy who silenced a room with his song." For once, Ethan's name wasn't forgotten, it was celebrated. But Ethan didn't care about fame or attention. The true miracle happened when he walked into his mother's hospital room that evening. She was weak, her body frail, but her eyes were bright with pride. She had watched the video, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You did it," she whispered, her voice trembling. "They finally heard you." Ethan held her hand, resting his forehead against hers. "No, Mom," he said softly. "You heard me first. You believed when no one else did." And in that quiet hospital room, surrounded by the hum of machines and the faint scent of antiseptic, Ethan realized something life-changing. Sometimes, it only takes one person's belief to ignite the courage to prove the world wrong. Glowing star final uplifting message. Ethan's story isn't just about a boy who sang. It's about all of us. How often do we doubt others before giving them a chance? How often do we dismiss someone's quiet strength, not realizing the storm they've survived inside? The truth is, every person you meet carries a song, maybe not in music, but in dreams, in kindness, in hidden gifts the world hasn't seen yet. And sometimes, all it takes is a moment of compassion, a single act of belief, to help that song rise. Because in the end, the voices we once ignored may be the very ones that change us forever. And so, Ethan's journey whispers to us all, never underestimate the quiet ones. No one believed, until he sang.